One day, I was in the boat coming to visit her mother and Sara, her sister, when a heavy storm began and their boats capsized. Maya drowned in the process of trying to save herself because she could not swim. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by lush green hills and a gentle river, there lived a woman called Ella, who was a widow and had two beautiful daughters named Sara and Mia. Sara was the elder daughter, known for her responsible nature, and Maya the youngest, who was always cheerful. The villagers would always admire how the two sisters tagged along always and did things together to help their mother, who was a widow. Their mother always received good compliments about how her children were well behaved and worked together. The other women always advised their children to emulate Sarah and Maya's characters. One day, Sarah and Maya went to the forest together, as usual, to fetch firewood for their mother. The forest, dense with towering trees and chirping birds, was a place they often visited. So, in the process of Maya cutting her firewood with her machete, suddenly a piece of the firewood flew and pierced the left eye of Sarah. She shouted, and Maya rushed to Sarah to ask if she was okay. Sarah said she's fine, that by tomorrow she's sure the eye will be fine. Also, she just felt a little pain in her left eye. Maya was very sorry and apologized to Sarah, saying it was a mistake. When they got home, they told their mother what had happened. Their mother was not happy about what happened. She told her daughters to always be careful. Their mother checked the left eye of Sarah and said it was just a minor accident, that by tomorrow, hopefully, the redness and the pain would subside. The next day, when Sarah woke up, her eye was still red and swollen. Maya was very concerned about her sister's eye. She told their mother that it was best they take Sarah to the village herbalist to give her some help for her eye. But their mother insisted that the eye would be fine. She said, "It's just a minor issue." After some days, Sarah's eye was still not healed. In fact, the eye was already releasing liquid substance, and her eyesight was beginning to fluctuate. That was when their mother took Sarah to the village herbalist for her eye to be treated. The village herbalist lived in a small hut surrounded by fragrant herbs and flowering plants. When they got there, he inspected her eye and asked Ella why she didn't bring Sarah earlier for her eye to be treated. She told him she thought the eye might get better on its own and she's just a poor widow who doesn't have money. The herbalist told her that Sarah's eye had gotten so bad that he feared if she might still be able to see with her left eye. He gave them some medication to apply on the eye, which they took home. They applied the herbs for some days, but there was still no improvement. Sarah complained to her mother that she could no longer see things with her left eye. Her mother took her back to the herbalist, who then broke the sad news to them that Sarah's eye is now blind and that Ella wasted so much time in bringing her for treatment. Ella was devastated. She cried and said to herself, "Look at what I have done to my beautiful daughter just because I was being reluctant and saying I don't have the money for the treatment." Maya, her sister, felt really bad. She blamed herself for making her sister blind. Sarah told her not to worry, that it was just a mistake. After some years, the two sisters grew up into beautiful young ladies and were ripe for marriage. Soon, suitors began to come for their hands in marriage. Anytime they came, they would always speak to Maya to be their bride, saying Sarah had one eye, and this made her sad. One day, a suitor came and said he wanted to marry Sarah. Her mother was very happy because all the suitors coming had been rejecting Sarah. The suitor that had come to ask for Sarah's hand in marriage was a prince from another village. When his parents saw Sarah, they were disappointed in their son for wanting to marry a girl with just one eye. Their son told them he saw nothing wrong with her, that Sarah was beautiful. His parents told him that over their dead body, would they allow him to marry a girl with just one eye? That was how their marriage was terminated. Sarah became very unhappy. That was when her hatred for her sister and her mother began. She blamed Maya for making her lose one eye and her mother for neglecting to treat her just because they didn't have money. Just because she said she didn't have money. Her mother pleaded with her, begging her, "You know how my situation was then. I was just a poor widow, had no money. I was the only one taking care of you." Maya, her sister, cried and begged her to forgive her, that it happened in the past when they were young. Sarah told her that she has caused her pain, and she would never forgive her and their mother. Her mother pleaded with her to forgive them, but Sarah refused. Sarah even went up to the extent of leaving her parents' house. They begged her not to leave, but she still left. Soon, a suitor came for Mia's hand in marriage, and she accepted. She went to inform her sister, Sara, but Sara told her that she wouldn't attend, that she came to mock her because she's not married after causing her to lose her eye. Maya pleaded with Sarah to forgive her, but she refused. Maya kept on living with regrets. She got married without Sarah attending her marriage ceremony, and it made her really, really unhappy. Sarah's mother even went to beg Sarah to forgive her, but she still refused and said she caused her the pain she was going through. Sarah resented her mother and sister so much. After Maya got married, she moved with her husband to his village. But that didn't stop her from always coming to visit her sister, Sara, from time to time. But anytime she comes, Sara wouldn't even want to see her, much less accept the gifts Mia would bring for her. Despite Sarah ignoring Maya, Maya would still take the risk of crossing the river with a boat from her husband's village to Sarah's place just to visit her and know how she's faring. One day, Maya was in the boat coming to visit her mother and Sara, her sister, when a heavy storm began and their boat capsized. Maya drowned in the process of trying to save herself because she could not swim. The sad news reached Maya's mother. She cried and mourned her daughter, Mia. Their mother then went to visit her daughter, Sara, to tell her what has happened. Sara saw her mother and asked her what she was doing in her house. Her mother told her that she has come to tell her that her sister Maya was dead. She told Sara, "Because of your unforgiving spirit, your sister has lost her life just because she was trying to please you. I hope you're happy now." Sara could not believe her ears that her sister Maya was dead. She fell to the ground and cried. She fell to the ground and cried bitterly. She kept on saying, "Maya, my dear sister, I forgive you. Please come back." Her mother turned to her, crying, and said it was late already, that Mia is gone. "Myself and Maya begged you for the mistake we did in the past, but you refused to forgive us." Sara was so heartbroken that she swore to never forgive herself. She lived in regret, knowing fully well her sister died because of her. The lesson of this story is to always find a place in our hearts to forgive people no matter what they have done to us. Holding on to grudges can lead to pain, regret, and irreversible consequences. Cherish your loved ones and choose forgiveness over bitterness. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope you learned a valuable lesson from this story. Please subscribe to the channel and explore more interesting and engaging videos. See you next time. A full bus conveying a group of nice members who had just finished their 1 year long service in a village got involved in a very terrible accident on their way back to their respective places just because of one single mistake. Here's what happened. In a small village, a group of nice members lived and worked at the local high school. The Corpers were lively, always laughing and making friends with the villagers. But as they stayed longer, their curiosity grew. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the dusty village paths, they came across the king's palace. The sight of the tall gates and carved statues filled them with awe. But something caught their attention, a golden crown displayed inside the palace. Its shine was like the sun itself, blinding and beautiful. "It's real gold," whispered Jade, the greediest of them all, his eyes glowing with greed. "Do you know how much this could sell for in the city?" Another corper, Bola, shook her head. "Don't even think about it. I've heard stories about this village. They say the king's crown is protected by charms and spirits. No one who steals it ever survives." But Jade laughed, his voice dripping with pride. "Charms? Spirits? Those are just stories to scare people. This crown is our ticket to wealth." Some of the corpers were tempted, but others were afraid. "We shouldn't touch it," pleaded Deo. "The village respects their traditions. Let's not bring trouble upon ourselves." But Jade had already made up his mind. "If you're too scared, fine, but I'm taking it. And when I'm rich, don't come crying to me." The days passed, and the end of their service drew near. On their last day in the village, while everyone else was busy preparing to leave, Jade made his move. In the dark of the night, when the stars were asleep and the village was silent, he sneaked into the palace with two other corpers who couldn't resist the thought of quick money. The crown sat there, gleaming like a treasure in a dream. "It's even more beautiful up close," said one corper, his voice trembling. "Hurry," whispered Jade, snatching the crown and tucking it into a black nylon bag. "Let's get out of here." When they returned, Deo saw the bag in Jade's hand. "You didn't!" he gasped. "We did," Jade grinned, his voice full of pride. "And I'm not returning it." "You're making a mistake," Deo warned, his eyes wide with fear. "You don't understand this village. You don't know what you've done." But Jade shrugged. "Mistake? The only mistake is not taking it sooner." The next morning, the corpers boarded a chartered bus, ready to leave the village. The sky was bright, and the villagers waved goodbye, their faces filled with smiles. Bola and a few others prayed for protection at the start of the journey, but Jade and his friends ignored them, laughing and taunting Deo, calling him Daddy Go. Jade sat at the back, his bag tucked beneath his seat, and a smug grin spread across his face. He could already see the riches waiting for him in the city. But as the bus rumbled down the dusty road, the crown's golden glow remained hidden, a silent witness to the greed that had set their fate in motion. The bus rumbled down the bumpy road, carrying the corpers away from the village. The morning sun shone brightly, casting long shadows of the bus on the dry red earth. Laughter and chatter filled the air as the corpers joked about their time in the village. But Jade sat at the back, quiet, his bag tightly clutched under his seat. The crown inside seemed to hum with a strange energy, though only Jade could feel it. Suddenly, the bus jolted. It came to a halt with a loud groaning sigh. The engine sputtered and died. "What's happening?" one of the corpers asked, leaning out of the window. "The bus has spoiled," the driver muttered, climbing down to check. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he poked around the engine. Hours passed under the hot sun as the driver tinkered, grumbled, and cursed under his breath. Finally, the bus roared back to life. Relieved, the corpers cheered as the journey continued. But soon after, a loud pop shattered their joy. "The tire has burst," the driver announced, his face twisted with frustration. He walked quickly to replace it, muttering prayers under his breath. The corpers were restless, fanning themselves with their hands as the heat bore down on them. Still, no one noticed Jade's bag or the hidden crown that lay inside, its silent presence casting an unseen shadow over them all. With the tire fixed, the bus was back on the road, but as the miles rolled by, an uneasy silence fell over the group. The wind, which once felt warm, now carried a chill. Jade glanced around nervously, but kept quiet. Then, out of nowhere, the brakes failed. The driver's panicked shouts filled the air as he struggled to control the speeding bus. "Hold on tight," he yelled, but his voice was drowned by the screams of the corpers. The bus swerved wildly before plunging into a deep ditch. The crash was deafening. Dust and debris filled the air, mingled with cries of pain. When the chaos settled, 3 corpers lay lifeless, their dreams and laughter snuffed out like candles in the wind. Others groaned, their bodies bruised and broken. Rescuers arrived quickly, pulling the injured from the wreckage. But as they counted the survivors, one person was missing. "Jade, maybe he was thrown from the bus," one corpus suggested, his voice trembling, "or burned in the fire." Another whispered, shuddering. But Jade wasn't dead. He had slipped away from the crash, clutching his bag tightly to his chest. His legs carried him far from the wreckage, his heart pounding with fear and guilt. The golden crown, still hidden in his bag, seemed heavier than ever, as if it knew the blood that had been spilled because of it. And as Jade fled, the shadow of his greed followed him, waiting to strike again. Jade hurried away from the wreckage, his legs moving like the wind as he fled from the disaster. After hours of walking, he finally found another bus heading to his city. Relief washed over him as he boarded, clutching his bag tightly to his chest. The new bus rolled along the road smoothly at first. Jade leaned back, thinking of the money he would make from selling the golden crown. But soon the bus began to shake. "Driver, what's happening?" a passenger shouted. The driver slammed the brakes, but the bus wouldn't stop. It veered to the side of the road before jerking to a halt. The passengers tumbled forward, shouting in fear. "It's the brakes," the driver muttered, shaking his head. They failed. The passengers groaned, climbing out of the bus as the driver inspected it. Jade stayed silent, his heart racing. He knew something was wrong, but he refused to let go of the crown. After hours of delay, Jade finally reached home. His bag felt heavier than ever as he stepped into the house. His youngest brother, Kunle, ran to greet him. "Brother Jade, Kunle shouted, his laughter like music. Jade forced a smile and patted Kunle's head. Go and play, Kunle, he said, quickly heading to his room to hide the crown. But misfortune had already crept into the house like a thief in the night. That evening, as Kunle bathed, he slipped on the wet floor. His head struck a wooden shelf and he fell silent. By the time the family found him, it was too late. Conla was gone. The house was filled with wails of sorrow. Jade sat quietly in a corner, his face pale, his hands trembling. He clutched his knees as guilt gnawed at his heart like a rat. As the night deepened, strange cries began to echo through the house. It was not the cries of mourning, but something darker. Ghostly whispers floated through the air, chilling the family to their bones. The wind howled like a wild beast, and the air grew heavy with fear. What is happening? Jade's mother whispered, clutching her wrapper tightly around her shoulders. Then the next blow struck. Jade's father, strong and proud, like an old Irako tree, suddenly fell ill. His body stiffened, and he could no longer move. It's a stroke. Call the prophet, Jade's mother cried, her voice shaking. The prophet arrived swiftly, his face grim as he examined the father. He spoke in a low, steady voice. Someone has taken what does not belong to them. Until it is returned, this family will know no peace. The family stared at one another, confused, alarmed, and terrified. Jade sat frozen, his heart pounding like a drum. The prophet demanded, his eyes scanning each member of the family. I didn't take anything, Jade lied, his voice barely a whisper. The prophet narrowed his eyes, but said nothing more. He left the family with a warning. If what was stolen is not returned, this is only the beginning. As the family mourned Kunle and worried over their father, Jade slipped away to his room. He unwrapped the crown and stared at its golden surface. It's just a crown, he muttered to himself, his voice trembling. Tomorrow, I'll sell it and use the money to fix everything. It'll all be fine. But deep down, Jade knew the truth. The golden crown was no ordinary treasure, and his greed had unleashed a storm he could no longer control. As the morning sun rose, Jade's heart was heavy, but his greed remained stronger. He wrapped the golden crown in a black cloth and stuffed it into his bag. Today, I'll sell it, he whispered to himself, his voice shaky. He stepped out of the house, his family still mourning, and made his way to the market. The road was long and dusty, but Jade marched on. The bag on his back felt heavier with each step, as though the crown was fighting to stay in the village. Then it began. From the corner of his eye, he saw a shadow dart across the road. He froze and turned, but there was nothing there. His steps quickened, but the shadows followed. Jade, a voice called. He stopped dead in his tracks. It was faint but familiar. Turning slowly, he saw a figure in the distance. It was Kunle, his little brother, but Kunle's eyes were hollow, his face pale. Return the crown, brother, the ghostly figure whispered, his voice carried by the wind. Jade stumbled back, his heart pounding like a drum. He turned and ran, but more ghosts appeared, their faces twisted in sorrow. Some he recognized, others were strangers. As he reached the market, Jade thought he was safe. But suddenly, out of nowhere, masquerades burst into sight. Their tall, colorful figures loomed over him, their whips cracking through the air. Thief! They shouted. Return what you stole! The first whip struck his back, and Jade screamed. Another lash followed, and he fell to his knees. He begged, but the masquerade showed no mercy. Please, he cried, I'll return it. But no one else could see the masquerades. To the townspeople, Jade was thrashing on the ground, screaming and shouting at invisible enemies. Is he mad? Someone whispered. Jade's voice rose above the noise of the market. I stole the king's crown, he shouted, tears streaming down his face. I stole it, the crowd gasped. Whispers turned into murmurs, and murmurs became shouts. He stole from the village king. Jade, still being flogged by the unseen masquerades, staggered toward the prophet's house. His cries filled the air as the masquerades followed, their whips cracking like thunder. Jade burst into the prophet's house, falling to the floor. The room smelled of herbs and smoke. But to Jade, it felt like a sanctuary. Help! He cried, clutching his bag tightly. The masquerades won't stop. They're flogging me. The prophet, calm and stern, watched him with sharp eyes. What? What did... Jade trembled, his voice barely above a whisper. I took the king's crown. It's here in my bag. The prophet shook his head, his voice low and grave. Do you know what you have done? That crown is tied to the spirits of the village. You've brought a curse upon yourself and your family. Jade fell to his knees. Please, I'll return it. Just make them stop. The prophet reached for his tools and began a ritual. He muttered chants, waved leaves, and sprinkled powder over Jade. For a moment, the air grew still, and the masquerades disappeared. You have 3 days, the prophet said, his tone serious. Return the crown to the king, or the curse will consume you and your family. This is your only chance. Jade nodded, clutching his bag. But as he stepped outside, the masquerades reappeared. They cracked their whips, and Jade screamed in pain. No bus would stop for him. Drivers thought he was mad. With no choice, Jade began to walk back to the village. Step by painful step, the masquerades flogged him, their voices echoing in his ears. Return the crown, they chanted. Jade's journey was long and torturous. His legs were weak, his back raw from the whips of the invisible masquerades, and his clothes hung in tatters. The bag on his back felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, but he pressed on, knowing that the crown had to be returned. Each step forward was a battle against his pain and regret. For 2 days, Jade walked, his strength draining with every mile. The path to the village seemed endless, and the crown in his bag felt like it was resisting him, fighting to remain where it could continue its reign of misfortune. As Jade approached the village gates, the air grew heavier. The masquerades, still following him, cracked their whips one last time before disappearing into thin air. Jade stumbled into the village, his clothes torn, his face streaked with tears and sweat. The villagers were waiting for him. The king stood at the palace gates, surrounded by his elders and guards. They had known he would come back. They always did. The golden crown had a way of calling its thief home. Jade dropped to his knees, his body trembling. He unwrapped the crown and placed it before the king. Forgive me, your majesty, he sobbed. I was blinded by greed. I thought I could escape, but I've paid dearly for my foolishness. The king looked at Jade, his face calm but stern. You have brought great sorrow upon yourself and your family. He said, the spirits do not forgive easily. You have returned the crown, but the price you've paid is heavy. Jade's heart sank as he remembered his youngest brother, Kunlal, and his father. Tears streamed down his face as he bowed his head in shame. The villagers murmured among themselves. Some were angry, others pitied Jade, but the king raised his hand, silencing them. He has returned what belongs to us. His greed has already punished him more than we ever could. Just as Jade prepared to leave, a messenger arrived, panting and wide-eyed. Your father has passed, the man said. He died this morning. Jade's knees buckled and he collapsed to the ground. His grief was like a storm crashing down on him with no mercy. The villagers lowered their heads, for even they felt the weight of his loss. Jade left the palace, his heart heavy with sorrow. Each step away from the village felt like a stone being added to the burden he carried. He thought of Kunle's laughter, now silenced forever. He thought of his father, strong and proud, now gone because of his greed. I cannot go home, Jade whispered to himself. What home is there for me now? He wandered aimlessly until he reached a large river near the village. The water was calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Jade stood at the edge, staring at the rippling surface. His mind raced with memories, the joy he had stolen from his family, the lives lost in the bus crash, the fear he had caused in the village. The crown, now back in its rightful place, had taken everything from him. I have nothing left, he said, his voice barely audible over the gentle rush of the river. Without hesitation, Jade stepped into the water. The river embraced him, pulling him deeper and deeper until he disappeared beneath its surface. The ripples faded and the water returned to its calm, quiet state. When the villagers learned of Jade's fate, they shook their heads in sorrow. His story spread far and wide, whispered by old women to their grandchildren, told by fathers to their sons. Let this be a lesson, they would say. Greed is a fire that consumes everything. It spares no one, not the thief, not their family, not their future. And so the tale of Jade and the stolen crown lived on, a warning to all who dared to defy the traditions and spirits of the land. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the tale of Jade and the stolen crown. This story reminds us of the heavy consequences of greed and the importance of respecting traditions and values. Let it serve as a cautionary tale for all who dare to defy the spirits of the land. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating tales. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an enchanting story like this one. If you visit a salon with a strict rule that mirrors or anything that has a reflection is not allowed, will you keep to the rule or you'll take your leave? Let's find out in Zena's story. Zena owns a hair salon in the town of Umuzi, a bustling place known for its vibrant markets and friendly locals. She was known for her incredible speed in braiding hair. She could braid up to 10 clients a day because she didn't spend more than an hour on each hair, no matter the hairstyle you bring. Hairstyles that take up to a whole day or two. With Zena, you can get that hairstyle done in just 1 hour. People loved Zena's fast, beautiful, and clean braids. Her salon was always full of customers because they loved the fact that they could just come to Zena's salon and get their hair done in no time. They praised her for her skills. But there was one thing at Zena's salon that you must keep to if you want to make your hair with Zena, which is the no mirror rule. Zena was so strict with this rule that once you got to her salon door, decorated with bright flowers and a carved wooden sign, she would warn you strictly and set your bag to ensure that you didn't have anything that had a reflection with you. People always wondered why she kept this rule so strictly, but they didn't bother to ask, as far as they got their hair done fast, beautiful, and clean. Dear viewer, have you ever come across a vendor that has this kind of rule like Zena's? One day, a beautiful young lady called Mariam visited Zena's salon for the first time. Mariam was a university student, energetic and full of curiosity. I guess she hadn't heard about the rule of no mirrors before. As she got to Zena's salon, they checked her bag as usual, but forgot to check her pockets. As soon as she sat down for Zena to start braiding her hair, she brought out a small glass that had a reflection just because she wanted to describe the hairstyle that she wanted to Zena. Immediately, Zena saw the mirror and she started screaming, "How dare you? Who asked you to bring a glass into my salon? Weren't you told that reflections are not allowed?" Immediately, Mariam responded, "I'm really sorry. I didn't know about the rule." Mariam threw the glass away outside just because she really wanted to make her hair in less than an hour. She didn't bother to ask Zena why she had such a ridiculous rule in her hair salon. She sat down, got her hair braided in a very short time, and left happily. Dear viewer, you must be wondering why Zena had such a rule in her hair salon. Well, keep listening to this story. Before I continue, this is a plea to you, my awesome viewers who haven't subscribed to my channel, to please be a part of my growth. I'm begging you, click on that subscribe button, please. And if you're a returning subscriber, hey, welcome back. I am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Now, let's go back to the story. Another beautiful day, a young lady named Amani visited Amani, an aspiring artist who loved capturing life on her sketch pad, needed to have her hair braided and was referred to Zena's salon. When Amani arrived, Zena explained the no mirror rule. Amani found it odd and refused to adhere to it. She said, "Why can't I use a mirror in a hair salon? How will I see what you're doing on my hair to be sure you're actually getting the hairstyle right?" Zena replied, "You don't have to worry about the hairstyle. I always get my hairstyles right. And if you don't want to adhere to the rule, then I won't make your hair." Zena stood firm and refused to braid Amani's hair if she wouldn't follow the rule. Amani left, confused and curious. Amani was a very adventurous and curious human being who always wanted to find out anything that she wasn't sure about. Her curiosity grew, and she decided to find out why Zena had such a strange rule. Amani returned to Zena's salon and apologized to her, determined to learn the truth. She promised to follow the rule this time. As Zena braided Amani's hair, Amani observed how fast and skilled Zena was. Amani heard a faint whisper as Zena worked. She realized something unusual was happening. She spoke to Zena. "Zena, what kind of skill do you have? You make hair so fast, even hairstyles that are supposed to take a day or two." Zena responded with a smile. "It is just a talent I have." Her suspicions grew higher, and she decided to investigate further without breaking Zena's rule. The next day, Amani visited an elderly woman in the neighboring town, a peaceful village known for its serene rivers, who had the gift of seeing things spiritually. Amani narrated everything about Zena's hair salon to the woman. The woman did her findings and revealed that Zena was aided by an evil spirit. The spirit made her work faster because once Zena started making a customer's hair, the spirit was always present with Zena to assist her in braiding the hair. That was why Zena was able to make hair in a very short time. Amani was shocked to hear this. The elderly woman also told Amani that Zena wasn't happy that she had an evil spirit braiding hair for her customers, just that she was helpless and didn't have any way of breaking free from that curse. Zena came across that spirit right from when she was born. Zena's mother took her to the evil spirit when she was an infant, and they both had a deal that when Zena grew up, she would become a hairdresser just so the spirit could have the opportunity of touching so many women's hair to empower itself. When Zena grew up, she discovered this but couldn't do anything to set herself free from the evil spirit. She had no choice but to continue like that because she knew that if anyone looked into a mirror whenever she was making their hair, she was going to die. That was why Zena was so strict with the mirror rule, because she didn't want to die. Amani decided to help Zena free herself from the evil spirit. She needed a plan. Amani begged the elderly woman to help her save Zena because she didn't just want to go to Zena's salon to use a mirror and get her killed. She preferred to assist Zena in breaking free from the evil spirit. The elderly woman agreed and prepared a special mirror that could trap the spirit. She gave it to Amani and asked her to go to Zena's salon and start reflecting the mirror around. So, when Amani got to Zena's salon, she informed Zena about her plan. Zena was nervous but trusted Amani and her plan. She wanted to be free from the spirit's control. Amani started reflecting the mirror around the salon, just like the elderly woman had said. The spirit realized what was happening and became furious, threatening Zena's life. The special mirror began to glow, attracting the spirit and dragging it. The spirit struggled to escape the mirror's pull, but Amani's mirror was too strong. The spirit was finally trapped in the mirror, and Zena was freed. Immediately, the spirit entered the mirror. Amani smashed the mirror on the floor into pieces. Zena was so happy and joyful. She said to Amani, "Thank you so much. I've been looking for help on how to break free from this evil spirit, because it's not just about making hair without a mirror." The evil spirit also told me not to get married. That is why I haven't gotten married until now. It's not like suitors haven't been coming, but the evil spirit refused to let me get a husband. Thank you so much, Amani. I owe you my life. Zena was excited, and Amani felt relief and a sense of contentment that she was able to help Zena out of the situation. Zena's salon now allowed mirrors. Clients were curious but happy for Zena. Zena had a feast to celebrate breaking the victory over the evil spirit. Her salon became even more popular, with clients respecting her new freedom. Amani and Zena became close friends after that ordeal. That was how the story of Zena, the hairstylist who didn't allow her clients to use mirrors, ended. It is important to respect people's rules and policies. However, any rule that doesn't sit well with you, it is very necessary to turn it down, no matter the juicy offer it has. Secondly, the story of Zena taught everyone that bravery, friendship, and wisdom could overcome even the darkest challenges. Thirdly, it is also important to always speak out when we need help. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember, at Woven Legends, every story has a lesson, a smile, or a spark of curiosity. If you enjoyed this story, please like it, Share it with those who love a good story, and join our family by hitting that subscribe button. Let's explore great stories together. See you next time. Stay curious and stay inspired.